Shirley here with Sirius Talisman. This is Jupiter, our Venus day. And Lilith is 22 in Scorpio. Ascendant is next to Saturn, 27 degrees Pisces, and Ascendant 28 degrees Pisces. And midheaven 28 degrees Sagittarius. You know what? I want to check what would be the 28 degree for Nikola Stoyanovich degree theory. Because and because 28, and that is just interesting. We need to have the degree theory. And this is degree theory. So, and Nicholas Stoyanovich was ascendant Virgo, and he paid great attention to detail in astrology and taught his students to observe the world. And from Lada Duncheva and Nicholas Stoyanovich, I really learned how to observe the world around me and begin to look at the world through the language of astrology. So, by the way, I was even thinking today about how our students can be continuing the lineage of our parents. Because I did not know, for example, that Lada's father was a very challenging figure and a hard aspect of Uranus to Mars. And my D9 chart, in fact, I was looking at a chart of atomic whistleblower, and they had a Mars opposition Uranus. And I said, this is the martial arts of whistleblowers. And then I turned 36 and I look at my D9 chart and I see that my Mars is opposing Uranus. And so um, I just look at this because if I think about myself as, first of all, I'm a very non-conventional student. I didn't take conventional courses, but I did give credit. And when I was working, then I was bombarded with a lot of psychic attacks, and I had to protect myself. And I had to, fortunately and unfortunately, invest my money in talismans first. And it's sad because a lot of that money that went to talismans could definitely go um, to courses as well. Yes, but I just think about how I'm this type of person that what I do with my astrology has to do in those changing times with things that continue on the path that the parents of my astrology teachers perhaps were. and and this is interesting because it means that my viewers, I have to think of them sometimes as continuing on the things or the path that my parents were going through, or and the thing is that we never know. um, yes, we never know sometimes in what ways that expresses itself, because you think, if I told you, if somebody, let's say your children will continue the path of your parents, and I told you, what do you predict? Probably you would think of maybe one thing, and that would be completely different. So also I was thinking about, and this can pertain to a lot of the problems that parents had with children and vice versa. Um, Yeah. Now let's see the grid theory. 23, but if I want to say 28, then I will have to go 23, I have to go back, and this would be first degree, which is degree 1. Okay, so degree 1 is Aries, so degree 24 is Aries, degree 25 is Taurus, degree 26 is Gemini, degree 27 is Cancer, and degree 28 is Leo. So it's going back to the Leo degrees, very Leo degrees, both the ascendant and the midheaven, and ruled by Jupiter. So we want to think about royal beliefs, and that is interesting for this chart. We had Antares on the midheaven today, and the moon is on royal degree 5. Mercury, royal degree 5. Lots of Leo energy. Sun in Libra. And Sun is in the decan of Libra that says, what was, will be. What does it mean? For example, if white people enslaved black people enslaved white people. But it is opposing Aries, is ruled by Mars. And why is that opposing? Because let's say you punched me when I was 12. Okay? And maybe you were 12 too. And then comes a transit, the next we are 13 and Sun is again in Libra. And on that time, I punch you back. It's very stupid because we did balance the equation, but very likely next year you will want to punch me back, and very likely around that time of the season. Now, and the opposite is Aries, and Aries is something new. Aries says, okay, instead of, or let's say you punched me, okay, and I say, okay, instead of punching you back, I ask you, listen, in order to assert my boundaries here, do I have to punch you? Do I have to kill you? Or is there another way where you respect my boundaries and you tell me what your boundaries are and we can respect each other's boundaries? But then I have to have what else is Mars? I have to have a home. I have to have ability to make money. I need to be able to do me. Now, here is the drama. With the eclipses that we had purging on the people pleasing, we want to think about the many techniques that women used to not get raped. Because they're going to teach us about the entire thing that's happening in society. One way we can look at the changing world is war, the Aries polar, fight over resources and so on and so on and so on. Okay? That does not explain at all rape. Only thing it explains is people rape to try to take life energy from people, and then they're in constant irrational fight with what Hobbes described as very short life, miserable life, and so on. But we can look from the Libra aspect. What women do to not get raped. If the husband or the men in general are busy fighting one another, They will not touch with a woman. They will not harm the woman. Elvira, that came from Soviet Russia, she was a journalist, publicist, and still is, says that this is what women did in Russia. Not only Russia. Okay? Women would support the leader that would take the men to war. Why? If the man at home, he drinks, he rapes. No good. If the man is elsewhere, a woman can have some peace. So now we understand, okay? Now, the leaders capitalized on that. Now let's say a woman doesn't have right to vote. What will she do? She has to find another way to make these men kill each other, do whatever, just not to harm women. How do you do that? I don't know. Now, one way to steal men's goods or money or whatnot and say to another man, please, I need you to kill this man, here is money. Now, if a woman say, this man harmed me, this man this man that, she doesn't know if that man is not worse. So women would not choose such tactic. The only time they would choose such tactic is if they were raped and then they have to make a mess between the other men to kill each other. So the man that treats her the best, she would be with him. Now let's say she doesn't have access to that, then she's in the kitchen. Then she would cook and try to poison the husband, because then is no problem. She widow, she wears black. Salamat. If a woman is forced to marry, Saturn, by the way, okay? If a woman is forced to marry, then what does she do? Saturn rules commitment, it rules restrictions and boundaries, also rules death. She kills the husband. Unless the husband is not abusive and they live well together. But for that he has to be not rapist. Now, men got used to, and not old men got used to, the woman doing whatever, and probably she would feel about this, so they would try to go for the outside. Now, here is the thing. Either the woman does whatever for peace, and there is peace, but then the woman gets hasty, she gets this, she gets that, she begins to buy everything in the shop, everything. All the money gone. Where the money gone? Money is energy, is money is energy. Man took life energy from the woman, she takes his money. Or he go outside. Outside is no problem. Because behind every goal where he goes outside, there's intelligence. Now, if they can extort him with the woman, then they do that. If not, they can extort him with the workplace. If not, he goes and they say, here, you get this, you get drugs, you get this, you get that. Then he smokes a little, but he smokes, he doesn't know there's something more in that smoke. And then they tell him, hey, if you pay a little extra money, here is a goal, 10 years younger. Now they can extort him at work. And if people find out, it's the workplace, it's the wife, because it's what the people say. She hasn't slept with her husband in, I don't know, maybe 20 years. Okay, but with the pedophile, what will people say? She wanted to marry this respectable man, so that people will stop bugging her about getting married. You see, if a woman is not safe and free alone, only problems. Only problems. Now he said, no problem. He will be arranging with some man, and they say if woman is raped, then they say she whore. Okay, but then they cannot extort him. So why will they let them? Whenever in every society where woman, where the word, if there is, I studied politics. I studied also for first degree linguistics. And one of the first things that people, when they go to first degree linguistics, we study how many words are in some languages for snow versus other languages. For example, Israel, we barely have words for snow because there's barely snow. If there is a word in a society that is something along whore, prostitute, slut, something along that, if there is such word in the language, you know one thing, this is a country of informants. Because if they cannot extort, that man will never get to sleep with a woman. As far as they're concerned, if he doesn't respect the woman, why should he get to sleep with her? Unless he can be extorted. Slaves, did they have the right to sleep with women? People in prison, did they have right to sleep with women? Now, in such society, woman says she will extort the man because he harmed her anyway. Then she has to extort the man. But what happens when women stand and say, you know what? I don't want to at least profit off of that. I don't want to live like that. Because there's no profit that changes. Okay, but the person's, it's not even freedom. It's a person's ability to be themselves. And that's the eclipses that are purging the Libra axis for the Aries axis. Because what happens now? Leave men and women aside. In society, everybody tell a person, be who you are, tell the truth, da 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 da, until they start doing so. One cannot be who they are without a sexual sovereignty. That's the nervous system. They violate people's identities by rape. In Libra, we can be adjusting so much so that we lose ourselves in a relationship or in a job or in anything that is interpersonal. And then we start being ourselves. Now in Pisces is even more of a problem because Pisces is the ocean. And one quality of water is that you can't distinct the drops of the water. So what do we see in this very solar degree is that appreciation and our ego, they're important. But what also important is, yes, to be able to be ourselves. And many people single because they feel like they're not able to be themselves in a relationship. Which very likely means also in society. And this is where arrives a certain crisis where person have to be themselves. And this is where entire society is in a crisis, because that avoidant person that they projected all kinds of things projected all kinds of things. Now that avoidant person has to be themselves because they need to assert themselves in place where people think they will be even more compliant, not understanding that being avoidant was being in many ways not fighting, picking one's battles. And then they hear all the things that they didn't want to hear. I am single because I am not happy with you. I am single because I don't feel like I have a place in this society. I avoid workplaces like the plague because they ask me to be an informant, which means to collect information on people that come to be my clients to buy my products so that those people will later be targeted to be homeless. And that's about the spirit of the times right now, because cold case files reopened. Lilith is 22ing, so um, I think a lot of people will begin to speak and say things that a lot of people are not comfortable hearing, and it's going to be in situations where they thought they're going to enslave the people, they thought they're going to get people to further comply, and what they get is people are saying, this is the last straw. And then people speak, this is when they say people speak truth to power. But not just power like the oil companies and so on, but also the parents, their surroundings, they're the people that supposedly come to help them assimilate in society. Mafia bosses, informants. And in a way, this rebuilds a society because people start expressing themselves and start being themselves. And those things that harvested on the many places in the many societies that were, you know, that people were, for the sake of peace, being avoidant. Now these things are starting to come out. In Libra, people think, I will meet their needs, they will meet my needs. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. For example, when I started thinking about how do I grow business, how to create business model, pricing model, I said, let's take a look at the problems of people that have money. And then if I manage to solve the problems and bring value to the people that have money, I can use that money to solve the problems of the people that don't have money. But what if the problems of the people that have money is to hide that, is to hide what they stole from the people that don't have money? So in a way, I'm addressing that because the people that have money, not all of them, but some of them capitalized on the very problems of the people that don't have money. And it's problem solving, okay? Extortion is problem solving. Why it is problem solving? The woman has a problem. Where is my husband? You haven't slept with him in 20 years. Where is my husband? Her real problem is, where is my housing independent of my husband? Where is it this? Where is that? Or where do I meet them? And usually these women, they meet their needs elsewhere, usually. But our problem is, Where is my housing independent of my husband? Where is my all these things that would make a woman glow and shine and would make her more attractive, as long as nobody's doing incubus and succubus on anyone? But what she's asking is, where is my husband? And she's willing to pay money for the little money that she doesn't have, or usually the money of the joint bank account, but she has to write it under something else. You say, okay, where's the... Now it's problem solving. The guy that would tell, or the girl that would tell her where's her husband, okay, they're probably behind putting cameras in the place where the husband was. Now here's the problem. What if the husband is not even going to any of the intelligences? He's taking a hike, like literal hike. There's this guy in Oregon making beautiful content, just him taking hikes, and I love his content because he's so down to earth, where he says even people see him losing weight and strolling, and he said, don't look at me, I'm content creator, I do this all the time, this is my job, but if you do even a little bit for yourself, then you feel better. What if the guy's just taking a hike? There's no money. Now what will you tell the woman? She paid over nothing. You can't extort the husband. And now you tell the woman, because if you were paid money to see where the husband, now you come to tell the woman. So you have to tell her, listen, Missy, your husband is doing his best. He's really taken, he took a hike. Now, and all of this problem would have been solved if she wouldn't need to marry him to have a joint venture business. But then she and her husband will say to themselves, why do we pay so much property tax, and there are holes in the road, and people sleeping in RVs not because they are traveling, but because they don't have a home. These people that don't have a home, tomorrow people will tell them, you can get a home because I will give you $1,200 and you will film these people that have homes. It's good money. What do I have to do? You have to film. Now they don't tell them the entirety of the job description. They don't tell them what is the filming for and so on. They said they live in RV, those people live in a home. Okay, they film. It's the police said, so the police. It's okay, legal. Just good money. But if the husband and the wife are still fighting, then they don't even get to ask, why don't we pay so much property tax? Why doesn't the RV here have a property? Our taxes are paying for them to also have a house if they don't have a house. We don't need them taking photo of us for... No, but better for these people to fight one another and be educated. Teal Swan, she recently had a Mars return. She saw a video of a husband that's not taking the trash out. And two people watched this. One, women, second, men. The woman watched this video, comes to her boyfriend, shows him the video. And she says, look at the comments. All these ladies telling her, dump him. He doesn't even throw the trash. How will you be able to trust him when you have a baby? Her boyfriend is ready and prepared because he shows the same video. with the comment section that say, what are you doing with such wife? You work all day and she wants you to work at home? She thinks it's only to throw the trash. Now if you throw the trash, you will need to wash the floor. And you will need to wash the dishes. And before you know it, you have no time to have your own money. And now she's sad because there's not enough money. So she will go with the other person that he makes money. If you don't dump her now, women will get used to tell you to throw out the garbage. גיטה שבס.
את יודעת שזו שבת האחרונה שאני מדליקה נר לחטופים, אני מתרגשת.
We hope so. We want them back.
ברור, אני רק אצא.
So.
שיש שלום ושיש שקט ממש בבריאות.
Amen. So. People are excited because maybe the kidnapped people are coming back. The whole world is talking about Gaza. By the way, speaking over those small details, yes. Yes. When I was in friendship with person, they were working and the staff that worked to give them coffee. They limited the coffee. Now, public work. It's our taxes. Even when you get money from welfare, you pay tax. But when the money is delivered to your bank account, they decrease the tax. Now the money is not some people's money. It is money because they wanted everybody to be informant and extort people. Those that weren't ready and were more sensitive and didn't want to do so, they became disabled. They became until they needed money from the government. And even with that money is decreased the amount of the taxes. Now, it's not that they can shut down the welfare and everything is okay tomorrow, because that depends on the people actually accommodating for the people. See, before 7th of October, there was a party that said put Zion in the Kalpi.
בלי סוכרזית?
No. And basically they said, yes, put a dick in the Kalpi. That's basically how they phrased it as well. And they were thinking to shut down all the social services. And a lot of people voted for them. Why? Because the religious people, they don't go to the army. A lot of them do. But they thought they live on their account. Now, nobody did anything to abolish the Epstein ring, which is why people call Israel Nazi today. It's just like the meme of the king and the queen sitting on the porch, and the people are coming for them, and the queen says to the king, you don't have to fight them. All you have to do is convince the people with the pitchfork that the people with the, with the wheat are coming for their pitchfork. And that's what happened. So what happened? So basically before 7th October, everybody was thinking to close the welfare. After 7th October, everybody is in line for welfare because they cannot work with PTSD. And the Palestinians are laughing. They say, what PTSD? they get PTSD from killing people. And but before that, my friend was working for a public place, government position, and researcher. And they limited the coffee. And I knew very well, if they limit the coffee, they cannot work. You you'll have to bring coffee from home. Then tomorrow they will say, this month we don't pay. Now, it wasn't my money. It was my friend's money. But I told my friend, because suddenly he was worried. Because suddenly he was making the money from the government, so he was worried. And I said, no problem. We write letter to the Minister of Agriculture. They almost fired my friend. And another friend advised him to say that he was a bit cuckoo. Anyway, because the Ministry of Agriculture was right into the management of the place. And said, what is it? That people don't have coffee. But what came out of that is that I don't know that workplace, but in that research place, it would be way more difficult to pull the salaries of the employees for 1 month. They will, if they have to do it for all the ministries, that's the place where they will do it last, because what went for a coffee, and it was not even my workplace. So then they try to convince him that women should be in the kitchen, and so on and so forth. I did not poison him. I'm just not a great cook, okay? Now here is the thing. Before that, that was the type of person when they were working on the research and they needed to calm down, they would cook. So they would make the best meals when they are just taking the anger away from what's not working with the research. Then they got into, there were some Chinese people, I don't know, and then they got into one of those masonry codes and tried to steal energy from me, which I think they're more traumatized than me even. Because when you steal energy from someone, they are suddenly at life risk, then okay, the person will do everything to get the energy back, to heal and so on. And the person that stole energy, whatever the ritual that they did, steal the energy, let's just say, it's not nice. Now, I wouldn't think it took me 5 years to understand that through some medium that spoke about another things. They give so many details, and I said, probably, I don't know, maybe somebody pays them, maybe this, maybe that. And I said, no. Because I begin to set a boundary, energy boundary, and then I begin to see that somebody is suffering when I set the energy boundary, and I'm like, I'm not harming another, I'm just setting a boundary from people that try to violate my boundaries. And that's the spirit of the time that we are in. You see, Ra is in Pisces, but we are still talking about the eclipses of Libra and Aries. Only now I think about it, this was another reason to target. Oh, they tried to separate us because we were making. Nobody could do gaslighting and narcissistic abuse and this. Nobody could do that. It immediately, this revolution, that revolution, so on. And everybody tried to separate. That was like magnet. And we were friends, not more than that. But then when they started with this social engineering and with this energy weird things, then they succeeded to separate. because it was something to do with beliefs. Um, and that's always people with the reason that they separate. People will try to separate, but the reason they separate is from within, not from the outside. The Venus is approaching Al-Qaid, but this lunar mansion in where Venus is a lunar mansion that can have to do with separation and divorce, and also Uranus 0 degree Gemini, preparing to its final delve into Taurus and make everybody that needs to divorce. And so what was the internal thing where they eventually managed to separate us was about religion. That person was more susceptible to the type of religions that are traditional. Um, that's it. And the fact that we were friends, so probably not compatible from like more than that, which is okay. Now, let's just put it that way. In this time, I would not make it a career to try to get the life force out of people. Because then what happens to get the life force back? Look at me, okay? I need to tend to my teeth. Now, what does it mean? That I need to, not just about raising money, I need to find a dentist that I can trust. So I need to see what are holistic dentists, what are the treatment methods, do they know about ritual abuse, do they know about courses that they do to prevent people to find a good dentist, do they treat holistically the problem? If they do so, it have to do with abundance. And it also means that I need to express myself, okay, for the many things that, and those things that there's a reason why people have been avoidant, because there's not things that are comfortable for people to hear. And those that capitalized on thinking, oh, when they will need, let's make them eat the bad food and so on, and then they will need to go to dentist, and then they will need money, and then we will get them to do this and that and that and that and that. What happens to treat holistically the teeth? Because otherwise you will get teeth treatment that's not good. The teeth treatment that goes like fix one thing and make mess with another. So they have to go through their karmic journey in Saturn, karma, which means what was I not saying? What was I avoiding? What are the things that are uncomfortable for me to say to society because I'm not looking to pick a fight with society? Why did I, okay, but what created holistically the teeth problem? Because there are also curses. How is the orthodoxy, Saturn, connected to that? Reform in religion. It's in the stars. I have Uranus in Sagittarius in the 10th house, religious reformation, philosophy reformation. Jupiter in the middle decan of Capricorn, which is the prepper's decan. It is the decan that can predict the future, that knows the history and knows the future, and gets prepared with the practical things. And this is where our religious and philosophical beliefs, and even in time of reform, does the way we do religious revolution prepare us to prevent the next Holocaust. And this is where people, ex-mafiosi people, yes, that talk about basically the importance of the Jewish mafia and its effect on the American mafias, okay, the mafias that operated in the United States. This is why people hate Jews, because the modern anti-Semitism, people will forget about the Jews. Okay, it's like it would be news of previous century, but the Jews were both excluded, so they were more prone to be criminals. But then, when they were criminals, they had such power, and they were not doing, but the things that they did as criminals were the things that people start hating Jews for, because it bothers, and this is where every society has to look to oneself and see where they are operating like what they don't like that the Jews do, because that's how we get rid of the actual problems. And the Jews have to ask themselves, okay, all this anti-Semitism, we talk about anti-Semitism, but we go to Bnei Brak, we cannot find minyan, which is just 10 or 12 Jews, to have a prayer. The greatest anti-Semitism is in Bnei Brak. So, and those are real cases. I'm not, okay? So, nobody wants to be the candidate to volunteer to pick up a fight with the Orthodox Jews that, by the way, have hiding an Epstein cult that does dark rituals of human sacrifice, and also have addiction to to endocrine. So you see, the rot in my wisdom teeth is the reason why it got moldy. Because that there was a reason why that was stagnant. There was a reason why I was waiting. First of all, I was completely dissociated from the entire thing. I have Neptune and Jupiter in Capricorn. Secondly, that Saturn is in the ninth house, which is not a local house. It's a religious house, but it's also an international house. In Scorpio. And is governed by 22 retrograde Mars. Which means that there's life and death. And so, go tell the Jews the thing that because a woman did not cover her, I don't know, wearing like a Taliban, I don't know, that because of that the Holocaust happened. Go tell them that it's because of the traffickers and the this and the that and the that. And if they don't get that, there will be another Holocaust. Now I see people from that were married to the Jewish mafia, yes. What can I say? Say, hear the Talmud. This is the phrase where it's okay to sleep with an infant because they're not a child yet. That it's okay to rape a woman, and this is how much money is for. And this is Talmud, Sanhedrin. Now, until people didn't talk about it openly, there would be no chance. First of all, I wouldn't know that. I'm not reading the scriptures. I read the Bible once or twice. Geen herinnering aan. I don't remember. Okay, but and I'm not. Normally, I don't volunteer myself to pick up a fight without. And go talks to Jews about what it does to the teeth, and that's. And I begin with Swiss bank. What money? And so, And Aries takes courage. But I was like, what if is it possible to have to be a little bit less courageous and still live a good life? Is it? And we're dealing with people when Neptune ingressed into Aries. I saw a person working on a trade platform that he sells to the banks. And he tells me, for the ideologies of the people behind those, which was also his ideology, that it's okay for them to kill women, to murder women, which means it's okay for them to rape women. And he was alluding to a human trafficking ring. He said they work in trees because if one loses the grip, the other two are not harmed. That smugness ends up in a death and concentration camp. And those that survive, Swiss Bengals, what money? Alternatively, post the lists of people that had Swiss bank accounts that did tax evasion.